What's up, Internet? My name's Nathan from Nathan's Book Reviews, and today I'm doing my first official review. I will be reviewing Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. It is the final installment of the Hunger Games series. It's actually a trilogy. And since the Hunger Games trilogy is one of my favorite trilogies ever, like top 3, I must say I had very high expectations for this book coming into it, and it was a good book. I liked it. I'm going to try and make this review spoiler-free, or as spoiler-free as possible. If I do have any spoilers, I'll say so before, throw up some annotations. So if you are a person who doesn't like spoilers, you'll be warned. But I don't think we'll have to resort to that. Anyway, as I was saying, it's a good book. It's very fast-paced. It's about 400 pages. The first 275 pages or so were pretty much perfect. As far as that's what I thought about them anyway. They're very good. It's just there's a lot of action, a lot of stuff going on. Katniss her character remained pretty constant. Every character remained pretty constant except for one, which I can't really say anything about because I'm trying not to do spoilers. Something happens to some character, he or she is different for it. Other than that, everyone stays pretty much the same. After being about 3/4 of the way through the book, though, things sort of start to go downhill. Let's just put it this way: the ending, it was not very happy. It wasn't especially sad, but it wasn't as happy as I thought it would be. Now, I didn't expect Katniss and Peeta/Gale, whoever she chooses, to rule Panem. But I didn't expect what happened to happen. I finished reading this book about what's today? Today's the 31st. I finished it about 5 days ago. But, so not everything's super fresh, but I still remember everything pretty much. I just feel like this book, I feel like Suzanne Collins was rushed with this book. I understand you want to keep it about the same size as the rest of the series, but I honestly think she could have written 2 books, sort of like Christopher Paolini, the guy who wrote the Inheritance series, Aragon and all that good stuff. Because they're basically 2 main. Not really. There's only one climax, but there could potentially be 2, and that is Katniss's. The rebels fight with the Capitol, and then what happens afterwards, if and when the rebels are liberated. So, because there's a bit of a power struggle, there's someone named Coin, and she is the ruler of the rebels. She's their kind of head honcho person. She's annoying. That's all I'm gonna say. She's annoying. The whole book, I feel like Katniss, she couldn't do anything, In the first 2 books, she had lots of power. Not like, she was in a controlled situation, the Hunger Games and the Quarter Quell and everything. But, at least within that, she could do pretty much whatever she wanted. In this, she's just a pawn, pretty much. And that's okay, but it was pretty annoying sometimes. A lot of the characters in the final 3rd or 4th of the book they completely changed. Gale is a huge douchebag in this book. He's bordering on the point of being amoral, meaning he just doesn't have a sense of morality. Peeta, he's probably one of my favorite characters ever, and he changes a bit, or a lot. Whatever happens to him, it just annoys me, because he's so radically different in this book than he was in the first 2. It's sort of like, I'm in high school, but, what I can imagine, it's sort of like, we graduate high school, there's the valedictorian, he or she is, top of their class, good kid and everything. You go back for your 10-year reunion, and you find out that they're a homeless person. And they just had so much potential. They're such a great person, and now they're just kind of getting by, you know, and just kind of living off the streets. It's just that's a pretty poor metaphor because I just came up with it in my head, but that's sort of what I feel about PETA. It's like I didn't know him in this book. I didn't know most of the characters in the final third. It's just their personalities completely shifted. It was sort of like Suzanne Collins. Imagine this. So there's a room, and she marks off each room, or each section in the room with, I don't know, tape or something. And in that space, on the floor, she writes like an emotion, an event that happens to him. Just a bunch of different things, and then she writes the name of every main character on a piece of paper, crumples it up, puts them all in a basket, goes up to on a ladder, and drops them on a spinning fan, so it shoots the paper in a random direction. And, you know, wherever the paper lands, that's what happens to that character. That's how their personality will change or whatever. I was just very confused. I know that war is hell, and all that stuff, but, you know, it's just, I don't know, I was kind of frustrated in the final fourth or third because so many people die. That's not really a spoiler, because you expect people to die. But some people die in ways that are just confusing. Someone very near to Katniss dies, and it didn't do a very good job of explaining it. It kind of says it, like it says she died. I'll put up a whatever. It says that person dies, but when I read it, I had to read it multiple times because I wasn't sure. I just thought it was someone who died, and I couldn't figure it out. It says it in the next chapter. I was just confused. And then someone else dies, and it's like that person's life flashes before Katniss's eyes. I was just really confused. It didn't make much sense to me. Out of all the people who survived the Quarter Quell, there are probably about 10 or 12. Only 4 I can name off the top of my head remain. 4 out of about 10 or 12. So a lot of people die in this book. You know, and I was kind of perplexed with the direction she took. It's almost as if Suzanne Collins went to her editor and said, okay, I want you to write down 3 conclusions to this book. The editor says, you're the author. It's your idea. You're supposed to come up with the idea. She says, no, just do it. So the editor comes up with 3 conclusions, brings it back to Suzanne Collins, and then she says, okay, none of these conclusions are going to be the ending. It's just as if she tried to do something that no one would think of just to not be cliche. Also, with the big action sequences, you know, when they go to rescue PETA from the Capitol, it's just she paces around and then he gets back. You know, I mean, Alex Reed's 2010, I think that's his name. If not, I'll put up an annotation. He explained it in this way. He said it as if you know, you got to know all the rudimentary details, all the things leading up to the main action sequences, and then it's like someone knocks you out and wakes you up afterwards and tells you what happened. And that's a very good, I completely agree with that. I feel the same way. Overall, Mockingjay is a good book. I'd give it about, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it about an 8. It was a bit disappointing. It was a bit depressing. Actually, it's very depressing. The last fourth of the book is very depressing. Let's put it this way. I read it all in one sitting, the final half of the book, but I read the final half in one sitting because I was so depressed that I wanted to know what happened so I wouldn't be depressed anymore. And it's still a compelling read, is good. It makes you think, but The Hunger Games and Catching Fire were definitely much better. I'd say 1 to 10, The Hunger Games was a 10, Catching Fire was about a 9.5. So this is a bit of a step down. Overall, it's a pretty good conclusion to the series. There are some things I would have done differently, but Suzanne Collins is the author. She's done a great job with this series so far. Overall, it's one of my favorite series of all time, and if you haven't read Mockingjay or The Hunger Games, I strongly advise that you pick it up. Go to Half Price Books, Amazon, whatever. Just get the book and read it. They're very good, and I promise you'll enjoy them. So, I'm Nathan from Nathan's Book Reviews, signing off for my first video.